Good evening and salutations, my B&B fans. So, truth comes out. Rich finally hears it after like a whole other episode. I'm gonna be honest. Yesterday's episode was really frustrating, and in a lot of ways, I thought it was gonna be just as frustrating today. I mean, she actually does tell him the truth, but it's like he just doesn't want to accept it. And the thing is, in the back of his mind, he knows that Taylor is telling the truth. He knows it. He knows that Taylor's telling the truth. He already heard it from Douglas. Given Brooke's history, it's not really that hard of a stretch. But, he fights her tooth and nail up until the point where it's like, you know what, listen, if you don't believe me, talk to her. Talk to Brooke. And you can tell he's frustrated, he's angry, he's defensive, but at the end of the day, you know, he leaves. And I feel like the part that hurt him is that he knows that she's right. That she doesn't have anything to gain. At first she was like, oh, well, Thomas and Steffi, they've always been against her and yada, yada, yada. And you're twisting Douglas's words and this, that, and the third, and you weren't there. And after all that, you know that she was telling the truth. Now, I'm gonna be honest. The whole the whole Steffi versus Brooke scene was just like it was a lot of double talk. Instead of her actually coming out and being like, "Yo, listen, we know what you did. I know what you did. Okay, I know exactly what you did to my father." She does a lot of double talk, and it gets to a point where Brooke is like, "Listen, if you don't actually have anything to say, you can go. The door is that way." you know. So after she keeps spewing more, oh, you're not good enough, my father, you've done this to my father, blah, 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 blah. It was the same stuff from yesterday. So I don't know, after a while, I was just kind of over it. But eventually she does leave, and, you know, Rich gets home. Now, before I really get into that, you got Liam, Deacon, and Hope, because Hope was like, yo, listen, Brooke is going to tell the truth. Like, she can't deal with the guilt. It's eating her alive. Like, it's too much, especially with Brooke, especially with Rich being so supportive. And Deacon's like, is that a good idea? You know how he feels about me. Like, that's just going to sit there and wind up blowing up, and it may go sideways. And, you got Liam Smith there being like, yeah, you'd be right there to pick up the pieces, right? Yeah, because he looks at the situation. He's like, don't sit there and act like, this isn't going to sit there and benefit you in any way, you know? Um, like Smith is saying, well, you're so concerned with Brooke and her marriage. It's like, no, you're going to get what you want. Let's not sit there and try to play coy. Um, there's a couple of times where, Hope sits there and defends him by being like, yo, listen, if he wanted to sit there and really cause maximum damage, like if he wanted to sit there and do that, he would have did it a long time ago. Um, So, she's there to sit there and defend him. Now, Rich just get home, and Brooke tells the truth. It's a bit of monologuing in the beginning, but she does actually tell the truth. Um, and, Rich is just like, yeah, I know. Taylor told me. And, Brooke was like, Taylor told? Like, Taylor? Like, what's the difference? Who else knows? Like, seriously, what's the difference? Who else knows? Um, he brings up Douglas and everything like that. So he's I'm not gonna lie, he's kind of reserved a little bit. I expected a bigger reaction. I mean, maybe he's taking into account that when he got back, Brooke told him the truth. She could have sat there and denied it. She could have just been like, all right, just like every other day. But she brought him back home and she was like, I gotta tell you something. And she told the truth. Now it's obviously far too little, too late. Because if that was the case, you should have did that the day after. You should have literally did that the day after and just dealt with the fallout, the consequences. You told him now, but at this point, everyone else already knows, including him. Um, but I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, he did sit there and talk about Deacon spending the night and being like, you wouldn't sit there and do this to me, right? You wouldn't do this to our marriage, everything that we have. Like you wouldn't do this to me. But again, I feel like his reaction is very underwhelming. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not expecting him to sit there and start yelling and screaming and like breaking stuff, but like I expected a a much stronger sense of emotions than you wouldn't do that to me, right? I mean, you wouldn't do that to our marriage, right? I mean, how even if you're not going to be super angry, you can come across as kind of hurt. You can have some tears or something. Like you just came in there like, yeah, I already know, but you wouldn't do that to me, right? Like what? I think that's why when I was sitting there watching, it was like there's something about this whole thing that just feels so underwhelming. And it's a lack of emotions. I mean, yeah, you got the emotions from Brooke. She was tearing up, and I mean, people can sit there and say about, people can sit there and say whatever they want about Brooke, but that girl Kelly, she brings it. She brings it. I mean, how she's been doing this for years, so I expect nothing. I expect nothing less than than her A game and what she brought in today. So I don't know. And honestly, tell you, I've seen that actor and Port Charles. That show Port Charles, and I felt like a lot more emotions, a lot more. I've seen him in this show too. I don't know what it's about. I don't know what just. I don't know. I'll just sit there and put it that way. Now Steffi does get back to the house and she talks to Taylor and she's like, did you tell him? Did you tell him everything? Like, and Taylor was like, yeah, I did, but he's just fighting me on it, or more to the point, he's fighting himself on it. So Taylor, so Steffi's like, oh, he don't believe it. It's not like he don't believe it. Oh, I'll go over there and make him believe it. I'll go over there and show him. But Taylor's like, nope, he left. He went to go talk to Brooke. So I am just so glad that we got to this point. And I felt like it took way too long to get to this point. I It's something about Bold and the Beautiful and Young and the Restless that just kind of drags out way longer than it should be. And I get it's a soap opera, and you kind of need to sit there and stretch out these stories, especially like in B&B. But B&B is only a half an hour long. You can stretch it out. You can have a better pacing, especially with that show, since it's only a half an hour, and especially with Y&R. Like, it's an hour. You have an entire cast. Anyway, I'm gonna sit there and say that I actually did enjoy this episode. I did. It took a long time to get there, but finally got there. So, all in all, it was good. I don't know. Like I said, the whole Steffi and Brooke thing. Like I liked it yesterday, but after like yesterday and like maybe the day before and like today, it was like, all right, I get it. I'm kind of tired of your double talking, you know, DC villain ways. Like either get to the point or just leave. It's like maybe I guess he has some sort of satisfaction at of watching Brooke squirm, but I feel like it's really like the third day. It's getting kind of old now. Anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna go. I want to thank you all for watching. Be safe. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video.